there's no room for you. My family said years on every holiday, but they always found a place for my sister and her family. I kept quiet, but this year I bought a house in Florida, and they said, we've packed our bags. My answer made them shock. Hey, Reddit. You know, I always thought that silence was strength, that keeping my mouth shut, especially around family, was the mature thing to do. But there comes a point where silence doesn't feel like strength anymore. It feels like being erased. Every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every stupid 4th of July barbecue, there's no room for you, they'd say, as if I were some extra item on a restaurant menu that didn't belong with the family feast. I used to drive down from Atlanta to Tennessee, gifts packed neatly in the trunk, warm pies balanced on the front seat. And every time I arrived, the smiles would fade just a little when they saw me. My sister, Leanne, would already be there, her 3 kids tearing up the house, her husband sprawled on the couch with a beer before noon, and somehow, magically, there was always room for them. But for me, the couch, a blow-up mattress, the garage 1 year. Eventually, they stopped pretending. Sorry. Honey, there's just no room this year. You know how crowded it gets with Leanne and the kids. It wasn't just the sleeping arrangements. It was how I was talked over at the dinner table, how my career in publishing was never as impressive as Leanne's perfect stay-at-home mom routine. How they called her husband by his name but always referred to whoever I dated as that man or what's his name. One Thanksgiving, I ended up in a motel. I watched the Macy's parade alone while eating vending machine Cheez-Its. I remember calling Mom to say happy holiday. She didn't answer. I could have snapped then, but I didn't because silence. Right. Then came last July, Dad's 70th birthday, a huge family reunion. I hadn't been invited, but I showed up anyway. I don't know what I expected. Maybe some shock, maybe some smiles. What I got was Leanne whispering to Mom in the kitchen and a tight smile from my father that never touched his eyes. We really weren't expecting you. That's what he said. I left before they cut the cake. I didn't cry on the drive home. I played angry music and told myself I didn't need any of them. But inside, something cracked. The next morning, I opened Zillow. I started looking at homes in Florida. Not just any homes, houses with open kitchens and pools and 4 bedrooms. Big houses. Houses where someone like me could host holidays, make memories. It felt petty like I was doing it to prove something. But you know what? That was the truth. I was. By December, I was standing in the foyer of my new house near Naples, a bottle of champagne in my hand and a grin on my face. It wasn't just a house. It was a line drawn in the sand. Christmas came. I didn't call them. Neither did they. Then, in February, I posted a few pictures online. The pool, the palm trees, the double oven in the kitchen. Just a simple caption, new chapter, new home, new peace. Within 2 hours, Leanne commented, so beautiful. Florida. Wow. And 2 days later, my phone rang. It was Mom. Your sister showed me your pictures. Honey, that house is stunning. Are you planning to have people over for Easter? I said nothing and I think the silence made her nervous. Well, you know, your dad and I have been talking about taking a little vacation. It's been so cold here. Your sister and the kids are on spring break that week. There it was. They had packed their bags. Suddenly, there was room for them. After all these years, I was useful. I didn't answer right away. I told her I'd think about it. And then I sat on my back porch that night, a glass of red wine in my hand, the Florida breeze on my skin. I thought about every motel room, every phone call ignored, every time I smiled through gritted teeth while they praised Leanne's potato salad like it was sent from heaven. This time, I wasn't going to be silent. The next morning, I called her back. Mom, I said, I'm really glad you called. But the thing is, I've decided to do something different this year. Different how? She asked, and I could hear the sudden tightness in her voice. I'm taking a trip. Alone. No guests. No family. Just me and some peace and quiet. There was a pause. Then, oh, well, I just thought, since you finally had the space. That's funny, I said, because for years, I didn't. But no one ever made space for me. She didn't respond. So I continued, I've always been the afterthought. The one who didn't have kids, the one whose name was skipped over during family blessings. You never noticed or you didn't care, but I noticed every single time. And now that I have something you want, space, warmth, a place, you suddenly remember me. That's not fair, she said softly. Neither was Thanksgiving in a Motel 6, Mom. She hung up. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel evil or vindicated or anything like that. I felt something different. Free. I didn't post anything else on social media. I let the silence sit there, not out of weakness this time, but control. Weeks passed. Easter came and went. I grilled shrimp by the pool and read 3 books alone. No screaming children. No pretending. No being less than, but they weren't done. Last week, Leanne called. Hey. She said casually, the kids have summer break coming up, and they love to see their auntie. Mind if we crash for a few days? Crash. As if my home were a hotel. I didn't respond immediately. I stared at the photo she sent after, the kids in swimsuits, a beach emoji, and then I started typing. The picture Leanne sent was almost comical, her 3 kids beaming in mismatched swimsuits, pool floaties around their arms like they were already halfway to Florida. I could tell she thought it would soften me, that seeing their grinning faces would melt whatever frost had settled in my heart. But this wasn't about her kids. It was about me, about the years I'd been dismissed, overlooked, passed over like a dish nobody wanted to try. I could still remember one specific Christmas when I offered to bring a homemade pie, and Mom gently said, "Oh, don't worry, honey. Leanne already made 3. They never wanted my pie. They never wanted me. And now they wanted to swim in my pool, crash for few days." That's what she had said. Not visit, not spend time, crash. As if my house were a layover, not a destination. As if my life was finally relevant because they could benefit from it. That's when I opened my phone and wrote the message that had waited years to be written. Hey. I appreciate you thinking of me, but I need to be honest. For years, I was told there was no room, not just physically, emotionally too. At the table, in the family, I stayed silent because I thought that was strength. But now, I realized silence was just your comfort. You got used to me being the one who adjusted, who understood, who swallowed the cold shoulder with a smile. Not anymore. This house is my peace, and it's not open to people who only remember me when the weather gets warm and the beach is close. I'm not mad. I'm not bitter. I'm just done. Enjoy your summer. I will too. I stared at it for a moment, then hit send. And just like that, I reclaimed something I never realized I had lost, my self-worth. It wasn't a grand, dramatic moment. The sky didn't open up. The earth didn't shake. But in the quiet click of a sent message, I felt something shift inside me. The girl who had once driven 12 hours just to be told there was no space for her, she finally had a voice. I turned off my phone, and I lived. The next morning, there were already 18 missed calls and a handful of texts. Mom had sent 3 messages back to back. This isn't like you. You're overreacting. You're hurting the family. Leanne's husband, who once joked I should be grateful just to be invited, sent me a message too. Real classy. Using your house to play games. What happened to family loyalty? That one made me laugh. Loyalty. Where was loyalty when I spent Christmas Eve crying in a Motel 6? Where was loyalty when I sent birthday cards to my niece and nephew and never got so much as a thank you? Where was loyalty when I stood in their kitchen during Dad's 70th, holding a bottle of wine while they stared at me like I was a stain on their party? It was never about loyalty. It was about leverage. And now that I had something they wanted, they were scrambling to pretend I still fit in the family picture. I didn't respond to any of them. I went for a walk instead. The Florida air was heavy with heat and jasmine. I passed neighbors who waved at me like I belonged, and that was the difference. Here, I did belong. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived in the mail from Mom. Not an email, not a text, an actual handwritten letter like it was 1997 and she was trying to win me back from a breakup. Dear sweetheart, it started. Not my name, just sweetheart. It was 3 pages long. 3 excruciating pages filled with sugar and deflection. She wrote about how families drift apart, how things had gotten busy, how they always assumed I was okay because I seemed so strong. She reminisced about our matching Easter dresses when I was 5, the time I broke my arm, and Leanne cried harder than I did. The undertone was clear. You're not really angry. You're just being emotional. Come back into the fold. Be the good daughter again. At the very end, she wrote, we just want things to go back to the way they were. I folded the letter and stared out the window for a long time. The way things were, when I was 13 and they left me at a neighbor's house for Christmas because Leanne's toddler had the flu and needed the guest room. When I was 22 and brought my then boyfriend to Thanksgiving only to have my father call him what's his face for 3 straight days. When I was 34 and got promoted to senior editor, and no one even sent a card. Yeah. No. Thanks. I didn't reply to the letter, but I didn't throw it away either. I kept it in a drawer, not out of sentimentality, but as a reminder of where I'd come from, of what I'd outgrown. Summer came, and I hosted my own kind of gathering. No family, just friends, people who actually liked me. My neighbor, Judith, brought fresh ceviche. A guy I'd met at the bookstore brought his guitar and played until the sun went down. We had drinks. We laughed. We made up stories about the stars. At one point, Judith leaned over and said, "You've built something really beautiful here." And I believed her, not just about the house, but about the life inside it. By the time fall rolled around, the texts from Leanne had changed tone. She wasn't angry anymore. She was sweet. Trying again. Hey. The kids really miss you. Do you want to FaceTime? Then a few days later. Thanksgiving plans. We'd love to come down if that's okay. She ended it with a heart emoji, like that erased everything. This time, I didn't write a message. I sent a postcard, a photo I took of my front door. My friend had made me a wooden sign for my birthday that now hung proudly above the mat. This house makes room for love, not guilt. No message. No name. Just that. I dropped it in the mail with a small smile. Thanksgiving came. I cooked for 3, a couple from my writing group, and a woman I'd met at the dog park who brought her anxious poodle and 2 bottles of wine. We laughed, swapped stories, and watched cheesy Hallmark movies until midnight. It was the best Thanksgiving I'd ever had. No one rolled their eyes when I talked. No one cut me off. No one said, "You're being sensitive." I was no longer the girl with her nose pressed against the glass, watching the family feast from outside. I had my own table now. Christmas followed, then New Year's. More texts from Mom. More guilt. More "we miss you," but never a real apology. Never acknowledgement. Just attempts to drag me back into the role I used to play, the quiet daughter who asked for so little they forgot to give her anything at all. I didn't respond because this silence wasn't empty anymore. It was full. Full of my own life. My own rules. My own peace. Because for the time in my life, I had everything. There is room. Room for joy. Room for peace. Room for me. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel.